a promising young law graduate, full of dreams, living her life just like any of us. But lurking next door was a neighbor with a dark obsession, an obsession that would lead to a horrifying tragedy. This is the chilling story of Lauren Giddings, whose life was cut short in the most unimaginable way. Welcome to Pushing Limits, Facing Consequences, where we uncover the disturbing truth behind her untimely death.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything.
The man being interviewed by journalists in 2011 is named Stephen McDaniel. He is questioned by a reporter about the disappearance of a young woman named Lauren Giddings. Stephen is among the friends and neighbors who have volunteered to assist the police in finding Lauren, who has been missing for 48 hours. Calmly, he explains to the journalist that he believes Lauren might have been attacked and abducted while out jogging. Stephen lives in the same student housing complex as Lauren. The last time he saw her, she was leaving for a run while he was returning home. But then suddenly, something shifts.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard anything? Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
You can see it in his face. Stephen McDaniel's expression hardens. His eyes betray a flicker of panic, a telltale sign that something isn't right. Why? Because the journalist mentions a chilling new discovery. Human remains have just been found in a trash bin in the parking lot of their residence. At that moment, Stephen freezes. He stumbles over his words, claiming to feel unwell and asking for a break. To an outsider, his reaction seems understandable. After all, the news is horrifying. But there's more to this story. The man who presents himself as a concerned friend and neighbor of Lauren might actually be realizing that these are his final moments of freedom. The truth? The torso discovered in the trash bin belongs to Lauren Giddings, and the person responsible for her brutal murder and dismemberment is none other than Stephen McDaniel. Behind the unassuming facade of a socially awkward young man lurks a cruel, calculating killer, a man obsessed with violence and driven by twisted desires. Lauren was born on April 18, 1984, in Maryland. She was the picture of a model student, studious, reserved, spending her time at the library, studying, or attending church on Sundays. In 2008, she moved to Macon, Georgia, to pursue a law degree, aspiring to become a lawyer. She lived in a student residence across from Mercer University, where she was working on her doctorate. Those who knew Lauren described her as active, friendly, and always kind to everyone. In her small apartment, Lauren spent most of her time studying. When she wasn't working, she enjoyed jogging or going out for drinks with friends. Shortly after moving to Macon, she met her neighbor and classmate, Stephen McDaniel. At first, she tried to befriend him, but it didn't take long for her to notice how strange he was. Stephen was a loner who spoke about disturbing topics. Some former classmates even overheard him discussing methods of killing someone and how to dispose of a body. Unsurprisingly, he had few friends and was widely considered odd. A glimpse into Stephen's reclusive life paints a chilling picture. He spent his evenings alone in his apartment, either studying or lurking on violent forums and explicit websites. Lauren, always polite and kind, was one of the few people he interacted with in real life, and perhaps the only one who treated him with warmth. Stephen began to obsess over Lauren. He tried to ask her out, but she rejected him. She was already in a long-distance relationship and wary of his behavior. Unable to take no for an answer, Stephen resorted to stalking her on social media and making awkward attempts to talk to her whenever they crossed paths at school. His obsession escalated when he secretly filmed the inside of her apartment through her window. What's chilling is that this video was recorded on June 25, 2011, the night before Lauren disappeared. That evening, Lauren had emailed her boyfriend David expressing an ominous feeling. She wrote that she felt uneasy in her apartment, as if someone had been inside while she was away. She couldn't shake the oppressive sensation of being watched. On the morning of June 29, 2011, Lauren's friend Ashley arrived at her apartment. Lauren hadn't been heard from in 2 days, and her sister, concerned by the silence, especially after sending honeymoon photos that Lauren hadn't acknowledged, had asked Ashley to check on her. Using a spare key, Ashley unlocked the door. Lauren wasn't there, but all her belongings were scattered around the apartment. Something was wrong. Most alarming was her phone, left on the bed, an item she never parted with. Ashley immediately called the police. While Lauren's family raced to her residence, investigators arrived and searched the apartment. The scene was bizarre. There were no signs of forced entry, no blood. Nothing seemed amiss except for Lauren's unexplained absence. Her disappearance was shrouded in mystery until one crucial piece of evidence surfaced and everything changed. Under ultraviolet lights and with the help of a chemical called luminol, investigators uncover traces of blood throughout the bathtub. From that moment, everything speeds up. The officers sense tragedy looming. Lauren appears to have been murdered. The search intensifies, and their instincts prove right when they stumble upon something horrific that confirms their fears. A suspicious odor leads the police to the trash bins in the parking lot of the residence. And that's where the unimaginable happens. They discover what appears to be Lauren's torso, stuffed in a plastic bag. Flashback to Stephen McDaniel during his local TV interview, when he learns the terrible news.
Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's why we're trying to ask people if they know.
Remember his frightened expression, his empty, shocked gaze. But in truth, it wasn't grief. It was panic. He knew he was about to be caught.
At this point, only a few people knew about what they had found in the bin, and after the interview was over...
The police search Stephen's apartment, and what they find is astonishing. It's almost as if he deliberately left behind every piece of evidence pointing to him as Lauren's killer. Investigators discovered several disturbing items in Stephen's possession: firearms, knives, and even swords. But what truly raised alarms were the condoms found in his drawers. When questioned, Stephen shockingly admitted to stealing them from his neighbors' apartments. That's when it clicked for the detectives. Stephen had access to master keys that allowed him to enter any unit in the residence. The most damning evidence: a package for a recently purchased saw. Coincidentally, this saw matched one found in the maintenance room of the building. And Stephen? He was caught on surveillance footage buying that very saw at a hardware store. As the evidence mounted, Stephen was brought in for questioning. But he didn't fight back. Instead, he sat there, silent, motionless, his eyes vacant, like a lifeless robot.
All right. I just got to ask you a few more questions.
Okay.
You came down earlier tonight, me and you talked, all right. You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
No.
That's just you are. What's wrong? You know Detective Patterson, right?
Yes.
Do you remember? Put your hands up here. You remember us talking? I need to know about this girl right here. You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
Does she live next door to you?
Yes.
Okay. Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay?
One investigator took a different approach, trying to appeal to Stephen's emotions. He suggested that perhaps Stephen's guilt was eating away at him, making it impossible to confess. But the police already knew how this case would end. There was no way out for Stephen.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her? I mean, I don't know, do you?
Yes.
Well, you know there was a body found in the trash can next to the apartments.
Yes.
And it's a female, white female's body, right next to y'all's apartment. We don't know 100% sure it's Lauren, but we're pretty confident it is. I mean, who would do something to somebody and throw them in a trash can?
I don't know.
And you know why we've been working all day trying to find Lauren, right?
Yes.
Because her family wants to know where she's at.
Yes.
And I don't know what to tell her family. So I'm asking you, what do I need to tell her family?
I don't know.
It's all on you, brother. What do you want me to tell her family? Huh?
I don't know.
Well, I need to know.
The evidence was overwhelming, and one investigator didn't hold back, bluntly telling him he was finished. Then a chilling discovery surfaced. On an online forum, Stephen had posted a message the day before his police interrogation. It read, "I saw my neighbor. I invited her for one last drink. I made her a special cocktail designed to knock someone out. I was finally going to lose my virginity. Oh no, oops, she overdosed and died. I had a barbecue with her arms and legs. I'm not a fan of organs, so I threw her torso in the trash. At first glance, it seemed like a morbid fantasy, a cruel fabrication. But shockingly, it matched the details of his later confession in court. By 2014, 3 years after his initial interrogation, Stephen McDaniel finally faced trial. During those years in prison, he had remained silent and emotionless, his vacant stare unchanged. But now, in court, Stephen spoke. For the first time, he confessed to everything. In a signed statement, he recounted the night of Lauren's murder. He admitted to using a master key to enter her apartment in the dead of night, dressed in black, wearing gloves and a mask. He stood silently, watching her sleep, until she woke up in terror. Panicking, Stephen lunged at her, strangling her until she succumbed. Her final words were, "Stephen, stop, I'm begging you." After leaving her body in the bathtub overnight, he returned the next evening to dismember her. He placed her remains in trash bags, disposing of them in dumpsters around the university campus. The torso, he left it in a dumpster near their residence, knowing trash collection occurred there earlier than elsewhere. The trial ended with certainty. Stephen McDaniel pleaded guilty to the murder of Lauren Giddings and was sentenced to life in prison. But let's be clear, if you think of Stephen as a lost, overwhelmed man who killed in a panic, you'd be completely wrong. 4 years after being convicted, Stephen tried to change the narrative. In 2018, he appealed his conviction, seeking a new trial. Representing himself without a lawyer, Stephen claimed the police had coerced his confession and that his original attorney had failed to defend him properly. But his arguments quickly fell apart in court. When he called his former lawyer to testify, it backfired.
Up until the last couple of weeks of your case, I was strongly in your corner. The graphic, specific, detailed confession, which we were shocked about in the jail, and then combine that with the searches on the internet, the fact that you had done searches about having sex with dead people, things of that nature. All of that combined to a heavy evidentiary problem in your case. On top of that, you possess the most horrific child pornographic photos I've ever seen.
His attorney reminded the court of Stephen's damning confessions. In 2022, another request for appeal was denied. Now, Stephen remains imprisoned in Hancock State Prison in Georgia. And though he may be locked away, there's one unsettling detail. In 2041, Stephen McDaniel will be eligible to apply for parole. Lauren Giddings was a bright, compassionate, and promising young woman whose life was stolen in the most horrifying way. Her story echoes the importance of vigilance, of trusting your instincts, and of understanding that evil doesn't always come from the shadows. It can come from the people you think you know. In the end, Stephen McDaniel pushed the limits of morality, humanity, and the law, and faced the ultimate consequences. Justice was served, but it can never undo the pain caused by his actions. Let Lauren's story be a call for us all to value life, recognize red flags, and never turn a blind eye to those who might be in danger. Because in the face of such horror, silence is never an option.